Oh, you know what? I'm finding something. I'll take a minute to find the good one.
Okay. You're good to go. Also.
All right, cool. I'll find something. Just give me like about 5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Cool. Just look up for me 1 second. Look up 1 second. Hold it. Hold on. This one gets focused. Right. One more time. Okay, good.
And then when Homeboy comes, we could just talk right here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about.
Or we could sit in the chairs.
Yeah, I'm gonna think about that. For the best place for that. I was thinking. It might be cool to have you there, like on the chairs, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So the Merchant.
Yeah, it's really good shit. I mean, like, it's just Shakespeare takes a little bit of appreciation. Like, you need to. It's like translation, you know. But once you translate it, and you have, it's sort of like poetry. Or like playing music, any sort of art.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have a little bit of a footing where you understand it and you make it your own.
Yeah.
Then you just open up a whole new world. Like, then you can really, and that's the thing is, you don't want other people to interpret it for you. You want them to explain it to you enough that you can then apply your own interpretation.
That's what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab a glass of water. I'll get you one.
Alright, thanks. Day in the year in for affectation or action, master of passion sways it. Rend, rid, not evade, abide a keeping vague. Why harmless, necessary cat, why a wool and bag by about a force with yield such another shame to offend himself being offended, so I can give no reason, nor will I. No, I will not, more than a lodge hate and a certain loathing I bear Antonio. And I follow thus a losing suit against him. Are you answered? Kill the things they do not love, hates man the thing he would not kill. The offense is not a hate first. Thou have a disturbance, ain't twice. Your question with the Jew. Purchase the age.
Have you been saying anything to the camera?
Oh, is it running right now?
Yeah, it's rolling.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking through this, but it's okay. I'll use this. Here we go. This is the best part right here. There's two, but basically the cool thing about this is Shylock gets a merchant. Or gets a trader in a bad position where he loans him money and the trader, his ship sink, and he can't pay Shylock back. And back then there's anti-Semitism, so Shylock's a perfect villain because he's just the pure Jewish evil bondsman. And so, but he's human because Shakespeare didn't really write one-dimensional characters, so he has a lot of logic vested in him. So he's making his case for why he wants actually his bond, or in the plot, it develops that he also accepts a pound of flesh instead of the bond. So now he's demanding that the guy give him a pound of flesh. And they're trying to talk him out of it. They're saying, Shylock, this makes no sense. And so he says, we're asking him for mercy, basically. And Shylock says, or someone, these are friends of the guy. I have to remember the play, like the actual characters. But someone says, for thy 3,000 ducats, here is 6. He's saying, I'll give you 6,000 ducats for the 3,000 that you loaned the guy. And Shylock says, if every ducat in 6,000 ducats were in 6 parts, and every part a ducat, I would not draw them. I would have my bond. He's very principled. He's like, I want the bond, the fulfillment of the obligation. So sort of like the unbending loan was a bondsman. And then, how shalt thou hope for mercy, rendering none? They ask him. What judgment shall I dread, doing no wrong? Doesn't believe he's doing wrong. You have among you many a purchased slave, which, like your asses and your dogs and mules, you use in abject and in slavish parts, because you bought them. Shall I say to you, let them be free? Marry them to your heirs? Why sweat they under burdens? Let their beds be made as soft as yours, and let their palates be seasoned with such viands. You will answer, the slaves are ours. So do I answer, the pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. It is mine, and I will have it. If you deny me, fie upon your law. There is no force in the decrees of Venice. I stand for judgment. Answer, shall I have it? And that's the whole idea of like the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. And I think that it perfectly illustrates some arguments I get in with people in Occupy Wall Street. This one guy in particular who manages a lot of resources, Metro Cards, housing, and he's turned me away from churches. He's turned a pregnant woman away from a church that we were housing people at because he's like, she's not on the list. And we're like, well, there's rules, and then there's the spirit behind the rules, and let's just show compassion. And he told me once, he was like, you can't get MetroCard, you're not on the list. I'm like, dude, you know me. You see me working all the time. We've known each other since the park, since November. He's like, if I just, Shaz, give this to you, then I'm no better than George Bush and these other crony politicians who hook up their friends. And I'm like, no, that's not what's wrong with society. We don't need better following of rules and regulations. We actually need better values, and we need more human structures and more human. Maybe we don't even need institutions, but we need more humanity and compassion. We don't need stricter rules and regulations, and that's sort of like an ideological split. And so he's sort of like that guy, like Shylock right here, is saying, hey, I'm completely within my rights and the law. You have slaves, you have your own property. I made a rule with this guy, or I made a contract with this guy. He owes me a pound of flesh. And that's what like Shakespeare, and that's what the artist does, is like brings in the humanity and says, well, there's rules, and there's logic, and there's rhetoric, and then there's compassion, and they're asking him to be compassionate, and in the end he is. And that's what a lot of times when I run into the movement, I ask people, like, I understand what we're doing, we're trying to set up a system, we're trying to be logical and stuff, and process is big, and we were just talking about process, setting up a process by which we could be more inclusive, the Occupy movement. But we also always have to have compassion. We always have to have people before process, is what I tell people. Is like and that's just like a phrase. Like when you come to a point where you have a person on one side and you have process on the other side, I would imagine you always want to break the process for the sake of the person. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's when you start to objectify people, because that's when you come up with an excuse to not see the person. And you have your rule, your regulation, you blame the victim. You say, well, they should have known better. They shouldn't have done, put themselves in that position. All these different reasons to not be compassionate. When I think what we were imagining in the park, and what a lot of people came out to try to change the world, it sounds really idealistic, is because we live in what seems to be an uncaring world, where we don't really care about people, and we see people falling by the wayside. Like I tell people, Wall Street and the society out there has a monopoly on all the smartest people, all the most rational people, all the intelligentsia, all the most complicated systems. We're not going to fight that with smarter, more efficient systems. They have efficiency in society. What we're bringing to the table was heart, was compassion, and was a different style of communication. And that's what direct democracy was, the consensus process, is people governing themselves, people actually listening to each other and joining each other in self-governance. Yeah, at the lowest level, just coming together in a park, in a public place, and taking part in a discussion and then making a decision, including everyone's opinion in that discussion. You have a proposal, you no longer own that proposal. C.T. Butler's book, he talks about that. You're supposed to check the ego at the door. And so this is a model that we started following in Occupy Wall Street. We don't train up to it enough. And this guy, he had a training in Long Island, not that many people went. He's having a second one here in New York this weekend, not that many people are going, because they care about efficiency, they care about doing stuff. But really, what I've been learning, the perspective I've been earning, is our most valuable accomplishment was the new communication that we were bringing to activism, to well, that anarchists have been using for a while now, and other activist organizations, but we are actually bringing into the mainstream, is this consensus process, that you can actually have complexity built upon direct democracy, which completely challenges our representative democracy. And that would be like an anarchist tactic, that you have a democratic deficit, which are local municipalities, cities that don't, well, our whole political structure doesn't seem like it's inclusive. It doesn't seem like it's representing us. It doesn't seem like we have a voice in it. Corporations are drowning us out, and it's destroying the environment. It's destroying our economy. Whether you criticize capitalism or not, I have that capitalist track here. You could just acknowledge the effects of it. It seems like things aren't working, and so into that discussion we've inserted the consensus process in direct democracy, and that's an anarchist idea of you create a model which delegitimizes power structures and embodies your alternative, your values. And that's what coming to a public place, coming to a park was all about. And that's what I'm starting to view this Occupy theory as being all about, is that at the very smallest thing that we did, and the very most important thing that we did, was come together in a public place and have a discussion in a direct democratic fashion, start organizing ourselves along those tactics. And then out of that we built complexity, where we're talking about actions, we're talking about protests and stuff, but we haven't really done that right, and we haven't really spent enough time like learning these tools of communication and improving ourselves. And that's what like the book's all about. Occupy Kiss is, that's why I say like wipe the lipstick off the pig, is that like in a lot of ways what we were doing was very simple, and it was left incomplete from the beginning. We have to go back and really spend a lot of time and energy working on those communication tools that we started off with. And that's where some people say it's not a movement, it's not a protest, it's a